Hi, hello. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone for coming. Thanks to the speakers, thanks to the attendees. And well, first, before starting with today's webinar, let me make a short introduction to Informatics Europe and to this Gender Equality Informatics series of webinar. This is sponsored by UEGAIN, the European Network on Gender Balance in Informatics. So first of all, a few words of what's Informatics Europe. Well, Informatics Europe is an association that started around 18 years ago with a gathering or a meeting of heads and deans of computer science departments. But since then, it has evolved a lot into something that is much more encompassing, including institutions, departments, but also research labs and private companies, which altogether represent, let's say, the public and private research community in informatics in Europe. Not only in Europe, because lately we have also neighboring countries joining Informatics Europe, which could be like Informatics Europe plus. And yes, just to give you an idea of the dimension of Informatics Europe, there is around 170 institutions represented from 30 countries from all over Europe and beyond. And this is about 45,000 researchers. And in this case, the numbers are important because this is one of the cases in which, well, size matters. The more people, the more institutions are represented in Informatics Europe, the more powerful is the voice of Informatics Europe when defending or presenting matters important for all of us, both at the local level, but also the national level and at the European level. So this is one of these cases in which when one institution joins Informatics Europe, the voice and the leverage of that institution is amplified by the whole institutions, by the whole set of institutions that are part of Informatics Europe. Of course, the full set of members list is available in the website of Informatics Europe. Now, what does Informatics Europe do? Well, it works in a number of activities, actually a large number of activities, which I'm going to try to summarize right now. So on one hand, there is lots of working groups which tackle activities and try to do interesting stuff in several areas, like, for example, education and research, and mainly education of computer science and informatics at all levels, also ethics in informatics, diversity and inclusion, open science, data analysis, data gathering and reporting regarding different indicators like salaries or existence of jobs in different levels in Europe, sustainability, and also recommendations which are more on the policy side, for which on all these working groups, one of the things that Informatics Europe does is to issue reports and to give information, but also to participate in other initiatives like partnering with Informatics for All, which is about trying to teach informatics at all the levels in the education stack, or digital humanism, and also participating in projects that are funded by the European Union, like Ethics for You, and like UGAIN, which is the sponsor of this series of webinars. So it also gives a series of services, among which I think that one of the most interesting ones is the yearly meeting, the European Computing Science Summit, which takes place every year around end of October, and this year will take place in Edinburgh, the 23rd to 25th October. And it's a unique place to gather together around topics and around discussions that are of interest for us. It's a meeting place where you can get together with your peers in similar institutions all around Europe and discuss matters and topics that are usually very interesting for everyone, not only about research, but also about funding, about managing an institution, about how to make education in computer science, how to communicate with the society. And every year there is a different topic, different main topic for the summit. This year's topic is informatics shaping the future. But beyond that, there is a series of activities that are carried over year after year, like a workshop for leaders, which is super interesting. I really recommend attending it. Careers advices for early researchers, and sessions with industry and sessions with national informatics associations. Apart from this, there is a series of services that Informatics Europe develops for its members, like, for example, it sponsors prizes like the Minerva Informatics Equality Award. It develops and makes it possible to have leadership courses for academic development. It puts at the disposal of the members data about education, data about jobs, PhD, etc. And it's also launching very recently a service to provide a repository for curriculum vitae for PhD and postdocs, where companies can look for talent. So this is becoming a meeting place for people who are looking for talent and people who are looking for jobs. And yeah, of course, you can find more information at the Informatics Europe website. Just search for Informatics Europe, but also in our social networks, mainly in Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, where in YouTube, for example, there is not only the webinars that we are preparing and broadcasting, but also a series of talks that take place during the summits that are part of Informatics Europe activities. And without further ado, well, let's go into what's the topic of today, which is one of the EUGAIN webinars. EUGAIN is, as I said before, the European Network on Gender Balance in Informatics. And what we have today is what I'm sure is going to be a very interesting webinar on the Gender Equality Committee at IRISA, Inria Rennes, which has been given by Nicolas Markey, Camille Maumet, and Anne Siegel. And I saw another name there, Elisa Formont, which I suppose it's also involved. And I would also remind you that everyone that is listening to this, that there are two upcoming seminars, the first one on June 19th, and the second one on June 10th. On the first one is on several female support activities later, what have you learned? And the one on July 10th, challenges and opportunities of gender inclusion worldwide in open source software. So that's everything from my side. So I'll stop sharing right now and leave the floor to our presenters today. If the technology is with us. So.
Can you see the slides?
Yes, we can see the slides. Then the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So I'll get started and just introduce the three of us. So it will be a three voices talk today. So hi, everyone. We're very happy to be here today. My name is Camille Maumet, and I'm here with Nicolas Markey and Anne Siegel. Nicolas and myself are co-leading the Gender Equality Committee at IRISA Inria Rennes, and Anne Siegel was the founding member, and she was leading this group until 2021. On this slide, you also see Elisa Formont, who's not with us today, but who is the head of the Anti-Harassment Committee, which work will also present during this talk.
Okay, so we are very proud to present, to give our presentation. So we are proud to have received the Minerva Award last year. So in this presentation, we'll give a general overview of the main actions that we carried out, and of what we believe are the important lessons that we learned while developing these actions. So just to set up who we are, let me give you some background elements about the lab first. So IRISA and the Inria Center of Rennes form a large research center, actually the largest public research laboratory in computer science in France. So it was created almost 50 years ago, and so it gathers more than 300 permanent researchers, about as many PhD students, and more than 100 postdocs and engineers. And these 80 members of the lab are organized as around 40 research teams covering a wide range of topics, which include cybersecurity, AI, robotics, bioinformatics, imaging, and so on. And it is sponsored by 9 institutions, which includes CNRS, Inria, and INSERM for the main ones, the national ones. So in terms of gender, IRISA is similar to most research labs in computer science. So here you have some figures for France, so which date 2 years ago. So basically in university and also at CNRS and Inria, there are about, so for computer science, about 20% of women. And you see this masculine advantage index, which roughly measures the, I mean, yeah, it's the proportion of people getting a promotion. So the ratio between men and women is 1.5 for university positions and about 1, so a good balance for CNRS and Inria. So at IRISA, we have basically the same figure. So about 20% of women in the lab and only 15% for in the senior staff. The masculine advantage index is slowly evolving. And you can see on this picture here that basically 20% is the number of women on the whole lab, but you know, when you look at the more senior positions, there are only 15% of women. If you now look at women that are team leaders, there are only 7%. And if you look at management position, there are, at least at that time, there were no women. So these are figures from an evaluation report 5 years ago. So this has led to the creation of our gender equality working group in 2017, and then the creation of the harassment prevention working group 2 years later.
And although we are here, three here today to present this talk, we wanted to emphasize from the very start that this is a team effort. So we are presenting the work of two committees, as we've mentioned earlier, the Gender Equality Committee and the Harassment Prevention Committee. In each of these committees, there are about 15 to 20 members. So these are acting members who comes regularly to the meetings of the committees. And on top of that, there are members of the lab at the whole that contribute to given actions or given activities of these committees. And in addition, we also have the support of different people in the lab for administrative work, audio communication, and so on.
And so if we come back to the birth and life of our committees, the story started 6 years ago in the view of the loneliness feeling in team leaders meetings. And so that we questioned the director of the lab, and he gave us a carte blanche to propose anything which would be concrete. So the guideline was no more speeches, rather actions. And then we created the Gender Equality Working Group in 2017. And during 1 year, we simply talked and imagined everything that we would like to do, especially those we were absolutely not experienced in. And then there was a key moment when we understood that the gender equality situation in the lab was not the consequence of individual issues, but was of a structural nature, which required collective solutions. So that we decided not to self-censure ourselves in terms of creativity. And we wrote a very long document with many crazy ideas that was discussed in the lab council. And so what was very surprising is that we must have been quite convincing because all the ideas were validated, and this wasn't expected actually. And we even decided to make the working group permanent. It became a committee in order to signify that the gender equality was a long-term issue which deserves long-term initiative. So that this was the beginning, and then came the bad time with what happens in all institutions. As soon as you create some gender equality committees, liberation of speech exhibited not admissible behavior in the lab. So that there was another stuff in September 2018, where Elisa Fromont led a new cycle of brainstorming with a working group on harassment prevention. They needed 6 additional months to imagine a bunch of more than 15 recommendations, and another long-term committee was created. And so that after this diagnosis phase and the design of propositions, we entered into the implementation phase based on trials and errors. And we start with basic and simple. We started with basic and simple ideas before moving forward to much larger objectives. the idea of this implementation phase was to involve all the members of the labs, women and men, to act upon the challenges related to gender equality, so that we focused our animations around 4 actions: raising awareness, fostering career development, improving well-being, and inclusiveness. These were the main actions. And just to, we will come back later to explain how these actions were implemented, but I would really like to highlight the chronology and the complementarity of these actions. So about raising awareness about gender equality, the first action was a small quiz that everybody can do in his lab actually, to answer questions about the computer science community. We also started girls-only discussion meetings, which were very interesting, and they are quite easy to set up actually, and they were already very effective to illustrate the problems and initiate discussions. And then we're starting to organize larger events, and we now run a regular seminar that we will speak about later. Another group of action concerned career evolutions. Their efforts were mainly concentrating on setting up a mentoring program. We didn't really know if it would work, and actually it was a real success. Again, we will talk about it later. And it was so successful that it was adopted by several other labs in France. And then we came to, in parallel, we came to scientific mediation towards secondary schools pupils with many actions. And what was interesting is that first we discussed and we interacted with pupils, and then we came to decided to discuss with teachers so that we could have more impact. And this is an example of an action where we did not know exactly how it would work. So we managed to adapt the action and to extend it way beyond what we had in mind at the beginning. And then we wanted to create an inclusive atmosphere in the lab. All the above actions already tend to this, but for instance, we also acted on concrete stuff such as a breastfeeding room in the infirmary, and this was not actually the easiest of our achievements. We also introduced some courses about harassment in the compulsory for all members of the lab. Again, it was quite challenging, and the results are quite interesting. So again, the idea of all these births and days roadmap is to insist on the fact that everything was complementary, and when we're starting all these actions, we didn't know how they would move on. Nicolas.
Okay, so yeah, did we make any progress? So of course, we'd like to measure the impact of those actions that we presented and for which we'll give more details in the sequel. So our teams have worked in groups with determination and patience, and also strong support from our direction. So this is an important point. And also the main idea was mainly to talk about gender equality with all publics, all members of the lab, so junior and senior, men and women, in many different formats. But our action were not focused only on the single objective of increasing the number of women in the lab. So instead, we wanted to raise awareness about gender equality in a broad sense, and also to improve inclusivity in the lab. So here are some figures about our action. So Anne just talked about this harassment prevention training. So it has been followed by 90% of the permanent staff in the lab. So this is thanks to the support of the direction. Also, I mean, from the fact that the lab council decided that people who want to take supervision or management positions had to follow this course beforehand. So of course, it was not an easy task to keep track of who had followed the training and who wanted to avoid it, who does not answer emails, who registered but did not show up, and send reminders. So of course, it was hard work, but it is a great success, I think, to have 90% of people taking this training and getting this knowledge about basic facts about harassment. So we also organized several seminars that we call 50-50 seminars. we attract approximately 60 attendees each time. And also, so Anne talked about this trainings for secondary school pupils. So we organized it. So we organized 4 sessions and attracted 160 pupils, and then in the second round, 75 teachers. So we also had several actions for sharing experience. So these girls-only meetings, so 20 of them have been organized yet. So we believe that it is important to have this women-only meeting, because it's easier for them to speak freely. And of course, the discussion would not be the same if all the lab would have been invited to these meetings. We also developed a mentoring program, and we attracted already more than 100 young researchers over 5 years. So I will develop a bit more later, but basically mentoring means that we have a senior researcher sharing experience with a junior colleague. And so having 100 mentee-mentor pairs mean that about 20% of the lab has been involved in this action. Now, regarding the effect, so again, our aim, and we have we cannot really have impact on the number, on the figures for instance, of the rate of women in the lab, but we can observe that it has slowly increased. So from 19.5 to 21.6% over 5 years. Also, we observe that 40% of the habilitation theses that have been defended over the last years have been defended by women. So this has to be compared to the 20% women in the lab. So it means that really we are, I mean, there was a problem that is being repaired in a sense. And also, if we look at the number of promotions over the last 15 years, so we had 9 women among 26 promoted over the last 5 years, compared to 2 versus 28 for the 8 years before. So again, this of course is not only due to our action, but so there may be many factors that have led to these improvements. But for instance, we believe that the mentoring program has had an effect, in particular because among the women that defended their habilitation, many of them followed the mentoring program. So we hope that this has an effect over these figures.
And before we dig a bit closer into our activities, we just wanted to go back to the overall structure and how, like, we can order all the actions in different subgroups for the Equality Commission, including communication, both internally within the lab and also with the idea of reaching out to more people in our local neighborhood. We also have actions that are about scientific mediation that we've mentioned earlier, so focused mainly on secondary school pupils. We have actions on inclusive workspace. We haven't talked much about it, but you've seen some figures at the beginning about gathering data about gender inequality in the lab and comparing to national figures, and more actions about careers. And the inclusive workspace subgroup has a very close relationship with the anti-harassment committee. And this is all well ordered and everything, but in fact, this happened, as Anne described earlier, by building one action after the other and focusing more on what members in the group, in each committee, wanted to see happening. So the group philosophy and the rationale of creating new actions has been and is still so far to identify problems, focusing on finding concrete actions that could help solving these issues. Then we share within the group successes, but also difficulties, and we try and improve the actions. And of course, being ambitious, so gender equality questions can be very hard to tackle, but there's nothing to lose by trying. And sometimes we've even been surprised by the results of our actions.
So we'll now give a bit more details about some of the actions that we developed. And I will be with the first one, which we call Je peux pas, j'ai informatique. So which is the French for I'm sorry, I can't, I have a computer course. So so this is our action for debunking stereotypes for secondary school pupils. So we have basically two different targets. So first, stereotypes about diversity of activities in computer science. So computer science is not just computer, and also gender stereotypes in computer science and in science in general. So we started before the COVID period with pupils. So we had 2 sessions with pupils in 2018 and 2019. And then so we tried. So we noticed that it was not very impactful because we could only get 160 pupils for 2 years, and it took us a lot of time to set up this action, and we believe that it did not have the impact we expected. So in 2021, 2022, we decided to train the teachers of these pupils. So we had, so I think 50 teachers the first year and 25 the second year. So these teachers came from all over Brittany. And we, of course, we slightly changed the content, but we could explain how to use our the material, the educational material that we had developed in their courses, so for their students. And we know that some of them, and we hope that many of them will use this material every year in their courses, so that our action has more impact. So at least all over in many different secondary schools in Brittany. So what did we learn from this action? So first, we believe that it is a win-win action in the sense that we also learned a lot, and it has an important impact on in the lab. So it involved many more people than just some. So the 6 people from the committee that you can see there. So I don't know how many, but many external persons came to help us. And also, it was interesting to see how teachers have different feelings about gender equality, especially among math and computer science teacher. And also, something that is important also, we believe, is that we were able to modify the focus of this action in order to make it more effective. At least we hope so. And so by moving from pupils to teachers. So this is also an important thing, is that I mean, the first time it might not be perfect, but we can always improve the action that we develop, and that's what I think we managed to do with this action.
And so now I'm going to present another activity that we have still in scientific mediation, that is called Elle code, elle crée, which I could translate as she writes code, she creates. So the goal of this program, again targeting to secondary school children, is to teach programming, so writing code, in order to create artworks. And the artwork can be anything from an image to a moving image or a picture that they like, or something like that. This action was initiated first in Lille in 2016 by Philippe Marquet, Maud Pupin, and Yann Sec. And we took over in 2019. So we've had about one edition per year since then in Rennes. And the idea is that we target 2 to 3 schools with about 10 to 15 children. It's a woman-only event. So we have women PhD students coming from our lab that teach women secondary school children. And we have about 6-9 PhD students, 3 organizers and 2 trainers per year. And if you can go to the next slide. The lesson we've learned here again is that this action has had a structuring effect on our lab, because beyond going into the schools and teaching how to program to secondary school children, this was also an opportunity for us permanent researcher organizing this action to have like some training session with PhD students to exchange, to also talk about careers and so on. And in this particular action, we found out that it was particularly important to try and work with schools that were ready to get involved and to put energy into it, because it's crucial to have people in there who can help recruit, explain to the children what they can expect from the action and so on. And this was crucial throughout the action that lasts for 8 weeks in a row.
And so we wanted also to emphasize on other topics that we addressed in the lab, which were very pragmatic topics. And actually, so we were very proud that we were able to set up a lactation room in the library just before Camille came back from his pregnancy, actually. And what was actually a lactation room is a very simple object. I mean, you just have to have a chair and some water, but it was very, very controversial in the laboratory, and we needed, I think, 1 year to obtain what we wanted. And more recently, in the committee, younger PhD students insisted on the need for free menstrual products availability, which we discussed much more quickly than before with the direction lab, which were made available in the lab. And what we learned from this experience, which is very quite classy, simple somehow, Nicolas, can you push? Yes, is that actually it was the most controversial issue to address in the lab, maybe because actually the underlying issue was to figure out who was in charge of girls' things. And there is really a question. I mean, do we consider that such girl things as lactation or free menstrual products are related to individuals, so that they have to be taken in charge by women, or do they have to be taken in charge by collectivities such as laboratories? My feeling and our feeling is that the tendency, which is much beyond our institution, is that it is becoming a collectivity issue that we have to address. So many schools in France and universities provide free menstrual products, for instance, and we have to address this in our labs. But it was not that easy to discuss with lab directors, and we are very proud that our lab director evolved on this subject quite quickly recently.
So one other action that we set up is a library for feminist literature about computer science. So this is an action for raising awareness again about gender equality in computer science, and so the idea was to show that there is indeed a vast amount of literature on those topics. So we have about 35 books that have been bought by the lab since 2020, and we display them in our cafeteria so that people can see them every day. They can perhaps the next day take a look at the back cover and then borrow it for 1 or 2 weeks. So again, apart from that, a reading circle has been set up on top of that. So in this reading circle, so it has been organized by early career researchers, and they take one of the books, they read it, and they discuss and share their impressions and their feelings about the book that they read. So what we learned from that is that, okay, so first it is very nice that this reading circle has been set up. So it's an activity that is led and targeted to early career researchers, so to younger researchers. So they can freely discuss their feelings about the book that they read. We believe that it is important. So in order to make the committee visible, to display the books in the cafeteria, and to make them available to everybody. We have the list of all books that is available online following this link. And also, I did not mention, but IRISA is a multi-site laboratory with one branch of the lab in Vannes and one in Lannion. And we exchange some of the books with them so that our books circulate between these branches of the lab, and so more people can look at these books.
So another of our activities is the organization of scientific seminars focused on gender equality. These seminars are led by experts in fields that are different from the computer science we are used to in the lab, so including education, history, economics, social sciences, and it's followed by a Q&A and loads of discussions. We have about 3 to 4 seminars each year and about 60 attendees. And I'll go straight to the lesson learned. So we found out that these formats worked really well, both in person, online, and in hybrid format. And this was nice for us as something we could keep. Actually, it started when we were all in lockdown in our home during COVID. And this was a nice way to get together and learn about gender equality. It's important to make the recordings available because beyond the people who could be there during the day, there is an opportunity to learn later on. And it has been, again, structuring in our lab because that's a way for lab members to get trained on those questions. And there is lower involvement than for a reading circle, for instance. So that's a good complementary way of training lab members. What participants have told us they like about these seminars is that it provides some scientific perspective on gender equality, and researchers in the lab are really keen to knowing more about what are practical solutions that have been shown to have an impact to get better results on gender equality.
So next action is the mentoring program. Next action that we want to advertise. So mentoring consists in having a senior lab member sharing their experience with younger colleagues, so they can discuss about career, research institutions, applications, work-life balance. So the way we implement it, it's a one-year program. So they stop after 1 year, and they can of course renew their application to the program, and it is open to both men and women, and also to both students and permanent researchers. So we have attracted around 20 to 25 mentees each year. So this resulted in more than 100 mentor-mentees pairs. And you can see on the diagram below that we have about equal number of equal portion of men and women applying, both for mentors and mentees, which means that, of course, again, given the fact that the lab has only 20% of women, this means that we attracted more women than men, but it has been important, we believe, to have both men and women participate in this program. So what did we learn about this? So we still have numerous applications every year for having a mentor. So even after 5 years, so it means that mentoring, we believe it is useful for all members of the lab. We also had enough applications for being a mentor, which was not clear at the beginning, of course, and which makes the mentoring possible at all. And again, this attracts much larger number of persons than just our committee. And another important fact is that we have a training for all the mentors, and we believe that this is crucial for the mentoring program to work well. And this training allows us to clearly define the role of the mentor, and it is mainly to share their experience and not at all to solve all possible problems that the younger researcher may have. Of course, it could be the case that the mentor detects some problems, but they should not solve it themselves, but direct their colleague to other instances in the lab that are that can solve these kinds of problems.
And as Nicolas mentioned it, actually, it was quite impressive for us to figure out that even though we didn't want to address harassment at the beginning, harassment came back as a boomerang very quickly, so that we had to address this question. And this was a huge, and this is still a huge work of Elisa Fromont, who is not here, but should be credited for this action. And so finally, what we decided after the emergence of possible harassment issues was to create this harassment prevention committee, and then Elisa proposed to the laboratory council to support and to initiate a program of large program of training, which was mandatory. So the idea, as Nicolas said, was to consider that every permanent people in a position to supervise somebody, including PhD students, had to follow this training. It was not that easy, but actually the lab council voted this stuff with unanimity. And actually, what is interesting is that it was possible finally. At the end, 90% of the lab members has followed this training, and it was not expected at the beginning, actually. So what we learned from that, it was possible. It is possible to train 90% of the faculty members. And what was quite interesting in the discussion, in the trainings, is that many discussions actually focus on PhD student moral harassment rather than on sexual harassment. So it means that starting from sexual harassment at the beginning, the global discussion on inclusivity and moral harassment arose at this stage. Another lesson is that the decision was taken by the laboratory council, and this was a strong and a key difference to bypass the refractory people. Michel Basville made a lot of work to keep track of who had been trained and not, and the direction of the heads of the lab were crucial in order to ping people multiple times if necessary. So there is still a lot more work to do on this question, but we believe anyway that this session of training of many people has had an impact on the lab. And so, yes, that's for me. Yes, in order to go to the end of this talk, just a point is that at the beginning, we initiated the commission by, I'll say, regretting that there were not that many people as in the direction of as a team leaders in the lab. We didn't initiate any action to create team leaders, for sure, but thanks to the complementarity of the actions, we have the feeling that finally women's careers are more benefit that they were before. And for instance, starting from communication, we had this, we made inclusivity actions visible. The 100% women lunches allowed to debunk imposter syndrome and to aware collectively that the career barriers were not individuals. And then the lab direction actions were crucial to make explicit criteria for habilitation thesis. Then we could come back to individual support with mentoring programs, for instance. And we had this spillover effect so that women having their habilitation thesis were promoted and inspired other women afterwards. So the visible results on promotions that we have now were not the target at the beginning. They are just the output of a collective and complementary actions. And there are very many things to do, especially on recruitment committees and incoming flow of women appliance, but we are still very proud of this result.
And we're getting back to what we were saying at the beginning. So this is a team effort, but one important issue is how can we get a team to work together for a long time? And these committees have been going on for a few years now. We do think that group dynamics are extremely important. Discussions about both our successes, but also our difficulties. The meeting we have with the committees are very important for everyone to feel involved and to be happy about the work we're doing. So as as the committee has been doing since the beginning, we'll continue to target concrete actions and to regularly check whether these actions fit with what we want to do as a group. And of course, by doing so, we have to accept that when new people join, the viewpoints of the committee is going to change, either because they're going to ask to do different concrete actions, or because they're going to have like different values that they want to bring into the group.
So besides discussion inside the group, we also believe that it's important to communicate outside the group. So we try to make our committee visible, try to show that all the actions that we develop, despite their diversity, target the single topic of gender equality. So we maintain the website, we have some quiz and other seminar that we organize, and try to show that, again, all these actions come from the same group. So as Camille just said, we are open to new contributions from people joining the committee. And still, so a few persons, it could be the case that a few persons do not appreciate our action. So apparently someone does not like the poster about menstrual products and always remove them. Some did not want to learn about harassment. Several men dislike the women-only group discussion. So we know that there may still be some people like that in the lab, but still we believe that it is important to be a group and to resist against such attacks. And on the positive side, we can observe that most members of the lab are positive about our actions, about these gender equality actions that we develop.
And so it's my turn to conclude this talk. Yes, so thank you for listening to us. And again, as Camille said, it was really a group action. So many people should be thanked for all these actions and the Minerva Prize at the end. And also, I want to emphasize the role of the directors of the laboratory, because they initiated the actions. They gave us carte blanche, and they always pushed us towards new actions, even when they were not entirely convinced at the end. So we will see what we move forward with all these committees, but it was a really exciting adventure, and it is still a really exciting adventure. Thank you. If you have any questions.
Well, thank you very much, and let's at least virtually clap. And yes, if there are any questions to the speakers, please. Yeah, Bara.
Thank you very much. Sorry for not having camera, but thank you very much. It was excellent talk, and wow, so many initiatives. So it's really inspiring to see that many initiatives. There are many, so it is yeah, I'm still trying to digest all the information. You mentioned a couple of times the teaching about sexism. That's a hard one, I must say. I wanted to ask in which way you approached it, and also like point you to one thing that I found helpful when I was asked to teach people about sexism in academia. Because I used a comic. There is a comic strip. I don't know if you know that one. It is about sexism in academia specifically, and it's nice and light. It's a lightweight way. So what I did is that I just collected the like comic strip pieces to show people and let them digest it, because very often they realize, oh, I didn't realize that somebody found that annoying. So yeah, let me first ask the question about how did you approach it? Like, how did you approach the topic we discussed?
Should I get started? So so I can cite a few initiatives we've done so far. So this has been mainly covered by the harassment prevention committee. So First of all, we have these women-only meetings where we've been just like discussing basically what are sexist sentences we might have heard or behavior in the lab and how people have reacted, just to, as Anne was mentioning, just to share between us and like realizing that this is an issue that is bigger than individuals. I think this is very powerful for everyone who's attending these meetings. And we also have some comics, so I think we could look up, I think they're on the website somewhere. So trying, just as you said, these are like postcards, and they describe different behavior or discussions between group members and trying to show how people can react or how this can impact members of our lab. But indeed, that's a difficult issue and still much more work to do. And then Nicolas, I don't know if you want to add something.
Yes, another action which was held by Peggy Sellier was to collect actually testimonies of sexism in the laboratory. So she asked to all the women to send her any testimony that could experience, and then she made a survey of what could happen, and she just explained. Also with comics, thanks to the communication service of the lab, what were these situations, and they were sent to the laboratory, and many people say that these were caricatural and not true, actually. So it was quite interesting to figure out that many people did not think that it could be true, but anyway, we said these were exactly real experiments from women, and I think it changed also some viewpoints in the laboratory.
That's very nice. So I will take a look at the website if some of it is there. And I also posted that link to the one I used. It's called Did This Really Happen? .net. So it is funny that you mentioned that like people, were questioning if those that you used are real, because that's the same right narrative behind it. And people say, oh, like really, this happens. And they are like the ones I used is that I basically, like in this comic on the link I posted, I scrolled really like to the bottom, because the comic strip is being kind of like published regularly, so the core things are really on the bottom, but yeah, like very so the things like a person coming to the lab and just asking a man about the research, or this like mansplaining a poster where the woman is standing by the poster but nobody's really asking her about her poster, but men are discussing about her poster, explaining what it might mean, as if she didn't exist by this poster. So it is it is a nice and soft way where people can really relate. And they say, yeah, exactly. This happened to me many times. So yeah, very interesting and great work. So congratulations. Thank you very much.
More questions from the audience? Well, I have a couple of questions which are quite concrete. So let me see my notes. So there's one slide 10, where you showed several steps, several activities, and one of them was scientific mediation.
I can share
does
them
it-
again.
Well, it was just a box with a picture, and it was written scientific mediation. What was that exactly?
So yeah, scientific mediation is so basically we have two actions there, which are the first two that we presented about interacting with pupils, so secondary school pupils with this program Je peux pas, j'ai informatique, where we debunk stereotypes about computer science.
Okay.
And Elle code, elle crée, so she writes code, she creates, where we help women, so girls in also secondary school to write some programs to produce some drawings.
Okay, yes, I understood. Another thing that I'm curious about is your mentorship program. what does it cover? Which kind of mentorship are you giving? Which kind of, what are the topics that you attack there?
So the topics are completely free. So it really depends on the mentee. So they usually they register and we ask them. So we have a small form where they fill in their name and first name and email, and we ask them for which kind of topics they want to discuss. They're curious about, because depending on whether they are PhD students or early career researcher or slightly older, they may have different questions. And also the same for the mentors. We ask them what are the fields on which they feel expert and they feel that they have some knowledge to share. And then we try to match well, mentors and mentees according to what they want to know and what they think they know and they have experience on.
Okay, I see. And which kind of, let's say, training are given to the mentors? Because it's not an easy thing, right? Maybe can you elaborate a little bit on that?
So yeah, again, so the training, the main aim of the training is to make sure that people share their experience and do not go, so mentors share their experience and do not go beyond that, do not try to solve problems that should be solved somewhere else. So again, mentoring is really about sharing experience, and it is not about solving problems. So the idea is to avoid problems and not to solve problems if they occur, basically.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I was, well, maybe not missing, but maybe I missed it and it wasn't where. Do you have some figure like a ombudsman? A ombudsman is a figure that is a person to which one can, if I have a, let's say, conflict with someone else at work, and I don't want to report it to my supervisor, for example, because it's not an academic problem, but let's say a problem, it's a person who tries to mediate and to be a, let's say, someone, that mediates before trying to go to the direction and raise the problem to, let's say, higher level in the hierarchy. Do you have something like that?
Actually, we have multiple people like that. So there are some people dedicated for PhD students, some others for permanent scientists. And also we have all the syndicates, I guess, and so social councils that can also be mediators like this. So we have multiple, the idea in the laboratory, which is very big and which concerns many people with many different employers, is to have a multiplication of possible entry points to make some mediation. So this is the idea. But the mentoring program is very complementary. The idea is not to address conflicts, but more to address personal issues in the career, which could lead to strife in the future somehow. And if there are some conflicts which are detected in the mentoring program, then the mentors are told to come back to these mediators in order to separate the conflict solutions to the mentoring stuff.
Okay, I see. Well, I guess I could have many questions, but maybe we will have to stop at some time. And I don't know if any other of the attendees has any other question. No, well, if not, well, thanks a lot for your webinar. I really liked it a lot and have seen many ideas that I can actually apply in my organization. So we have some of the things that you have, we already have them. Many of the things that we have, we don't have them. So it's because many of them we just didn't thought of that. Right, and then it's been a very good source of information personally for me. So again, thanks to you three, thanks to the attendees, and I think we can wrap up here and clap again. And yeah, congratulations for all the work you have done, and I hope that it continues in the same lines. Well, with no conflicts, but with the same spirit.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very
Thank
Okay,
much.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.